or a lieutenant, you know, so we went to Fort Campbell, somehow got in to see the post chaplain. This guy, first thing I saw was his ribbons, his coat. He had on greens, and his coat was hanging, you know, behind his chair. He had World War II ribbons, CIB. So I knew I was dealing with a real guy here, you know, he'd become a chaplain later. But anyway, he turned around after he heard my story and picked up the phone and called DA, got me another extension, third extension. So I was able to stay home until our son was born, and then the day I got her home from the hospital, left for Vietnam, where I was eventually assigned to Delta Company. And that was August '68. I was a platoon leader until February of '69, and then I spent the last few months at the brigade. They shifted me up there. After that, I stayed in the Army a year, got out, finished school, went to work for Procter & Gamble, ended up staying with them 36 years. Worked with a couple of guys that were in the Army Reserve and stayed out 7 years, and then got in the Army Reserve and ended up staying in till I could retire after 31 years. So again, just I'd like to say I am just honored to be here with all of you.
I guess I have to pinch myself when we all went out for dinner last night, and it's kind of hard to believe that all of us are sitting at one table again. So, and it's been so long. I was drafted. I was in Vietnam February of '68 to February of '69, Delta Company, 198th Light Infantry. I was assigned, or our unit was assigned to do, they were minesweeping Highway 1, the Marines were, and we were providing flank security for the Marines, and we were there. We did that for like 2 weeks, but we always ended up stopping at the same place every time. So we had 2 tanks assigned to the caravan that was way in the back, and I remember getting to our location where we met the people coming down from the north, and we were going to get back on trucks, and we were going to head back to July. And lo and behold, there was all of a sudden a couple of huge explosions and all kind of light arms fire. Everything was going crazy. And I'm on the other side of the road. The 2 tanks are coming down the road, full boat, turned, lowered the barrel. I'm on the back side of the tank. I think I've probably came off the ground about 6 inches once that thing went off. And from that day on, I said, I need to carry a radio. I want to know what's going on, because there was a lot of confusion. So I was a radio operator for most of my tour over there. And I learned a couple things. When you're in an ambush and you got your mountain antenna up, you better get it down. So that's about 6 or 8 feet above your head. And then my last little stint over there, I was pulled out of the field and came back and did resupply for a couple of months. And I found out that a couple things: when you're flying on a helicopter, hang on to everything. We were taking incoming rounds. We were probably about 2,000 feet, and I had a full boat of hot food for like 2 or 3 LZs that I was dropping off. And I leaned forward and I told the one pilot, I said, we're taking incoming fire, and he's kind of said, where? And I went, back there. Well, he decided to take the Huey and put it on its side. In the meantime, I lost a whole canister of mashed potatoes, went right out the door. So I figured some family down on the ground there is going to have some nice mashed potatoes for dinner tonight. So that was kind of crazy, and everybody was shooting, and you know, we finally made it to the LZs, but then I was the guy that had to face the unit. There's no mashed potatoes. So then from there, I actually earned my CIB in the air coming into July. We were fired on when we were landing, and you could hear these bullets coming up through the floor of the plane, and one of the gentlemen already on the plane, we weren't even there yet, and he already got injured. So had the CIB getting in there, but Great group of guys. We were very tight, close-knit, watch each other's back like most of you who are sitting here today. What I really want to do is thank the wives. They're very important to us. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Harlan Prevey. I got drafted in April '69, went over to Vietnam in September '69. I just remember the first day I went out in the field riding that helicopter out. I had to sit on 2 duffel bags of ice cold soda. And there was always in the helicopter besides me. And when the helicopter pilot did that bank, I thought I was going to fall out like he was talking about, but it didn't happen. Well, we get out to the field, and you know, all the new guys got all their helmets on and all the new uniforms and all that stuff. When we landed, I get off the helicopter, don't know what to do, but all I do is I see these guys sitting around their skivvies, doing nothing. I'm going like, what the heck is going on? But you're still scared, so I went and hid by a bush, just waited all day long, didn't know what to do. Well, next day they slapped a dead radio on my back, and we humped all the way out the highway once, we go up to Fat City. Well, from that day on, I carried the radio also for the whole time. Went from squad to platoon to company RTO. I also went through about 3 or 4 captains. See what else? Oh, anyway, I got off for 4 years, and I come back in active duty. Retired 20 years, and 1 day too many. Which is actually 1 day more than I should have, you know. Anyway, then after that I went, tried several different jobs, and I wound up with the county parks department. And that was a great job, because it's outside. I never wanted to work inside. And it was just taking care of the parks and all that stuff, and I retired from there first of the year, so I'm fully retired. While I was on active duty, I spent 2 tours in Germany, Fort Campbell, Fort Carson, where I'm living right now in Colorado. While I was in Germany on one of our little concerns, I was an aviation unit at the time, and I just happened to notice there was an infantry unit on the post. And I went over and looked at their sign and it said Delta 1st to the 6th. It was kind of, you know, I thought that was kind of strange. They were over in Germany. I think they were in 3rd Armored Division at the time. Well, that's, we've got 3 kids. We've got 1 8-year-old, which is keeping me young and active. Doesn't let me settle down. That's all I have. Thank you guys all.
Okay, my name is Leandro Navarro, which I also go by Lee because nobody can roll those R's. But yeah, I was drafted in 1968. It was April, and then went to Fort Bliss, El Paso. Then from there, they sent me to Fort Lewis, Washington. And of course, from Fort Lewis, Washington, I went home for a week or 2. Went to Vietnam, but before going, when I went home, I didn't tell nobody I was going to Vietnam. I just told them I was going to California, which I was, but I was taking the plane from there to Vietnam. But I just wanted to go home, you know, have a good time, and I didn't want to see anybody unhappy or crying or anything. So I said, well, it'd be better if I don't say anything until I'm ready to go. So that's what I did before. Getting in the plane, I called home, and I was going to Vietnam. So I ended up out there in Delta Company in September of '68. Then I got wounded of May 14, 1969. And then, well, that night that we got wounded, there's one guy that got killed, but we had where is he? He's not here. Oh yeah, Jerry. You know, I think it was only about 7 of us that night, you know, so we were lucky that his squad was close by, so they showed up and helped the other guys. There were about 3 guys left there behind. So his squad came over and stayed with those guys. So then from there, they sent me to Japan, into the hospital. And then I went to San Antonio to try to recover. They sent me home for about 3 months. From there, I went to Fort Hood. And then 1970, that's when I got out. And then, well, in 71, I started working in the post office and retired in 2001. So I was there for 31 years. And, well, I got one daughter. My wife passed away back in '93, you know, but I live with my daughter now. And I'm glad to be here, and nice to see everybody here too, you know, and remember some of the good times that we had. You know, I know we had bad times too, but we were always doing crazy things over there without thinking, you know. So, but I'm glad I made it back, and everybody else did.
All right, I'm Grover Cash. I got drafted in 1969 as a third generation drafted infantryman, so I already knew how good the Army was going to treat me. Got to Vietnam with the company, Delta Company, in March when they'd just come out of the rocket pocket and come in that night, me and Jack Bombetto. I'd been back to the sniper school and graduated from it the 10th of August, and I was the one that set off the first mine on the 14th of August when we got so many people hurt. And some of the old guys I knew a long while, and a lot of young guys got together and was able to get me out of there, and Colonel Richardson brought his command bird in, and between the three, all of them, they saved my life, so I figured. Went through all the hospitals, VA, got out, got married, had three boys with my first wife. Spent about 10 years killing brain cells with anything that had alcohol in it. Quit in '85, married my third wife in '90, and I've also got an 8-year-old son, and that's bullshit about him keeping you young and healthy. It keeps me old and tired. But I was nervous about first coming here and seeing a lot of people, but I'm really glad I made it, and glad to see all of you, and hope we can do it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Jim Glasscock, and I get kind of nervous when I talk. I talk individually to people, but when I'm talking in front of a crowd. I was going to go into service in 68, but my high school sweetheart, who's my wife, we've been married since I got back from Nam, but 68, I decided to go back and graduate from high school. I got in trouble with my wrestling coach, and so he, well, I was a football coach, but he wanted to wrestle, so I showed him. He's a big guy. So I finally said I was sorry to him, you know, so it's better for me now, because I carried a grudge of hating this guy for my whole life. But when I went back to high school, I graduated, and then I said, well, I know they're going to draft me. There was 5 of us going to go in '68. 4 of them went in. One was in the 4th Infantry. He was a RTO. We were all buddies in high school. He was an RTO, forward observer for an FO. And the other 3 got inducted into the Marine Corps. They just pulled them out of the draft order. And they went into the Marine Corps, and all of us went to Nam. Dave Miller got shot up. But anyway, then I ended up, after I got out of the service, or after I got out of high school, my wife, she wanted to get married, and, you know, I did too. But anyway, I ended up, I told her I was going to volunteer, and so rather than wait until I get drafted, I don't want to start a family. So I volunteered and I went into service, and up at Fort Lewis, Washington. I was from Scappoose, Oregon, and Sergeant Uncle, John Pugh. A lot of the guys that I got to Nam. I went through training, and I had a drill sergeant that just absolutely disliked me. As most of you know, I can be pretty, I'm pretty easygoing until somebody rallies me, and then I get kind of fired up. And anyway, he ended up, this drill sergeant told me, on the Puget Stick range, I'm going to beat you to death. And I thought, what's a Puget Stick? So when I found out it was a weapon that you can stick out in front and hit somebody, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. so he put us in a platoon size, and he put the gear on us, and we're going around, and he put me out there, and there's a bunch of guys, football players from Nebraska and everything, and big guys, really big guys. And I thought, well, if they hit you, it's going to hurt you. So I had boxed a little bit and everything. So Paul Hamilton and I went through training together. Hamilton was a professional boxer and really a good friend. He's having troubles now, but we went through training together, advanced infantry training. The first time I ever met him was in AIT. That's a little bit further on. But this drill sergeant in basic training told me that he was going to beat me to death. So I said, okay. So he put me against 8 different people. And you know, when you went to Puget Stick and you had all the gear on and everything, and you're just sweating after you do one. Well, he put 8 different people against me, and none of them could hit me. And I hit the ground. I never hit the ground. And so, well, you know, you got a stick, a club. You know, it's like boxing, pop, pop, and zip, and stomp, and, you know, so anyway, he ended up, the drill sergeant wouldn't put the gear on with, and this friend of mine that was in training says, Mackey was his name, he says, I thought you were going to put the gear on with Glasscock, and so he made us throw the gear down, he double timed us back to the company area, and we got another sergeant. I never saw the guy again. But then I went to advanced infantry training, and this, I was in 1st platoon, and he picked me out to be a squad leader. You know, they just go through and pick. And he picked me out to be a squad leader for 1st Squad. And I said, okay. Well, I hadn't been home or anything, and my fiance was home. And so I got a weekend pass, so I went for a day and a half. My brother came up and picked me up in Seattle and back down to Oregon. Well, when I get back, some of the guys they came to me and they said, you're the squad leader, and told me what this guy had just come back from Nam. He was drunk. And he was drunk all the time. And he was down there making these guys in and out of their barracks, and they had just got into infantry training. And so I went up and had a talk with him, and he's sitting up there, and my father was an alcoholic, and my stepfather was an alcoholic. So it was, I couldn't put up with somebody that was really stupid when they're drunk. And so I went up there and I started talking to him, and I asked him if he'd leave the guys alone when I'm not here. Me and Jermaine need a squad leader. So he sat there listening to me, but he was drunk. And then he starts sticking his finger in my face. Well, that's... so anyway, he went to Top and told Top that this guy needs to be in another platoon. So that's when moved me over to 2nd platoon. And I walked by Hamilton, and he was laying there on his rack. And I said, that's how I kind of looked at him. He's from the East Coast. And if you smile at somebody from the East Coast, they think you're queer. And and he piled out and threw up, and as soon as he threw up, I knew he had boxed, you know. And I go, whoa, whoa. He said, don't you ever smile at me. I said, hey, dude. I thought you were, you look like a guy, this Dave Miller, the one that went to the Marine Corps. He looked just like him, and Paul's pretty physical and everything. And I said, no offense, I don't want to get in your shorts or anything. So anyway, we became very good friends. We went through training, and there he is right there. And anyway, we ended up, hey, Paul. Anyway, we ended up going to Nam. And there was like 7 of us that went over there together. We went through advanced infantry training, and there was like 7 of us went over there. There was Graham, myself, Glasscock, and Hamilton, Healy, Harris, Jones. Anyway, all of us went over there together, and they started calling out, and they called Gallegos out, and he went up to 196, and then they called out Graham, and then they called me out, and they sent me to 198. And the next, I was sitting on the helipad. They gave me my gear and everything, and I'm sitting on that little helipad in the LZ bayonet, and I'm sitting on my steel pot with the pack. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The dust flying and everything. Here comes the Jeep, and the guy stops, and then the dust clears away, and here's Hamilton and Healy, Hamilton and Harris. And anyway, they went to 1st Platoon, and I went to 2nd Platoon. I remember getting on a chopper, and we went up Dragon Valley, and we were throwing off resupply, and I hit down in 2nd Platoon. Russ was there, and chopper left, and I go, wow, this is, we're out in the jungle, and we'd been over trees and everything, and this was in the 1st of 70, and I thought, man, what have I done? This is nuts. This place is nuts. And anyway, I met Russ, and Sergeant Uncle was in 3rd Platoon at that time. We had a guy named Sergeant Johnson, a big black man, and we did a few ambushes and everything, and we moved back. When we got back to the Marine Hill, Lieutenant Hurt was also a black man, and I suppose after talking with Paul and everything, Sergeant Johnson probably felt like that he would be better served. I was looking at some of my notes and everything that I was taking, but I wrote my wife. She would write me. She was my fiance, and I'd write her back the whole time I was over there. 2nd Platoon, Sergeant Uncle was, he came to 2nd Platoon, and then he wanted me to be his radio man, and so I became an RTO. First I was Tom Nowak's RTO, and then Sergeant Uncle and Lieutenant Divisac, they're both smaller, and they wanted me for a target, so they put a radio on my back, and I stayed close to them from then on. So it was until when we moved from Dragon Valley over to the My Lai area, then we found a village. We were on a patrol. I mean, you never knew what you were doing. I mean, you were absolutely, even working with the lieutenant, I think everybody was just kind of punch drunk. You just kind of went wherever. And, it was really a stressing place to be in. Sergeant Uncle and Lieutenant Divisac were great people to work for, and I never had any problem with them. I carried the radio for them, and then, I'm trying to think everything that was going on. It was absolutely, 3rd Platoon would get hit, 1st Platoon would get hit. We were all taking our turn and getting whacked on. I'm trying to think everything that's going on. But Lieutenant Divisac was, I got along real good, but he's from the East Coast, so he's kind of brash. All the East Coasters are, no offense, Paul. But they are pretty, they're great people, and they just have, it's just the environment that they're from, and the West Coast are more hippie type. Nobody's I wasn't a hippie though, so. Anyway, Sergeant Uncle was a platoon sergeant, and I carried the radio around for him, and then I became a squad leader, and I ended up, before I became the squad leader, I was on patrol with Sergeant Uncle. That was a trip. We found a village and we were going to torch the hooches. There was hot coals and fire still going in it. And so Lieutenant Divisak said go ahead and torch it, so guys were lighting the hooches and everything. And, anyway, Captain Hine decided that it'd be better if we dropped it. So we had to put them out and we had to book back to where the company had set up. So they made us guard the gear. They took the rest of the company and went over and cordoned on the village. And all of you that were on cordons, I don't know, we fell asleep one night, 100 guys or so on line. We were coming up hills. I don't know if you guys remember it, up hills and in thick crap. And everybody was so tired from humping that we took a break. They were trying to find a way through the junk. And everybody dozed off. Man, everybody went to sleep, the whole company. And here we were heading for a cordon. Anyway, they do a cordon on this village, and they come back from the cordon, and we'd gotten mortared a couple times from a tube over the ridge over. And if anybody looked at the Playboy 1970, the June issue, there's a write-up in there. And it's, I didn't read it.
Read the article?
Pardon me? What's that?
Somebody read the article in the Playboy?
There's articles in Playboy? Yeah, it was, I guess I should have bought it, brought it with me. But the June issue, they didn't write that particular thing, no, but it was a 68 television. They were talking about the athletic field and Hill 43. That was where we were at, the athletic field, Hill 43. And that's what I was bringing reference to. They decided to send us over, and he went on the cordon, and so they started popping across the athletic field, shooting mortars over on the position where we were at, and it was just our platoon there. And so we got a couple rounds in, and Steve Ferguson, he told me, Jim, you need to jump in this hole, because Captain Hyde didn't want us to get overran, so he had us dig in every night. The only problem with digging in, if everybody doesn't help, you know, some guys, Sergeant Lee wanted to, they decided that, you know, being Joe Punk, you can dig it for them. And so I would ask him, anyway, Sergeant Lee and I didn't get along, but Sergeant Uncle, we sat there, and he decided he was going to take a patrol over there, and he took Sergeant Ferguson, or Steve Ferguson, he was a sergeant though. He was our machine gunner, myself, Sergeant Uncle, and Phil Payne. There was about 7 or 8 of us that we went over there to get that mortar tube, and we went all the way across the athletic field, which was a flat patties, and we went baylining right for it. And when we get there, Uncle says, he's walking point, he goes, hold up. So we all stop. Well, I dropped down on one knee, because I'm, like I said, I'm a target. So I dropped down on one knee, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and I'm going, you know, because I was still John Wayne. I thought, these guys are going to open up on us. So he comes back to me, and he goes, what are you? He says, I need to hand something. So I handed it to him, and he's standing there talking. He's trying to walk around. He was always wanting to walk. And I said, he says, well, come with me. I said, I'm not standing up. And so anyway, I told him, you know, do you think these guys ran from us? So anyway, he said, well, what the hell you want to do? I said, well, whatever. So he started moving us down, and I went 2 steps, and it was a 12-inch or so rice paddy. I just stepped up onto the left side, and as I was coming up onto the right, with my right leg, up onto the paddy, the first round hit me right up through the back of the leg on my left side, and the second round caught me in the right leg, flipped me backwards, and I hit the side of the rice paddy. And as I hit into the rice paddy, I'm trying to jerk my radio off my back and hold it in the air, you know, because you don't want to get them drenched. And I'm trying to pull the handset off, and Paul was calling me on his radio, trying to, anyway, Fergus, somebody's calling the one, I think it may be in John, is trying to see if anybody was hit. And I'm trying to get this shit off me. So I finally get it up. And I'm saying, no, nobody hit. Well, Ferguson behind me, Fergie goes, Jim, check yourself. He's spraying the machine gun. He says, check yourself. And I looked down, and the rice paddy was full of blood, you know. I said, oh, shit. And so Unc says, well, So we got some tanks from Charlie Company. They happened to be in the area. I think it was Pew that called him in. Tanks, he could see tanks over on the other side of Ridgeline. And there was like 3 APCs come running up over the hill. They ran